PJ, before we dive too far into the show today, because I'm making an executive decision about the show today. And
Christian, it's your show.
Well, I mean, that's fine. But we do have a little bit of business to dive into here before we get into the show. An exciting business. Tomorrow on the show, we will be joined by Josh Pate, CBS Sports.
Yeah.
Really excited to
Nice.
catch up with him. One of the more prominent figures, I think, in the new wave of college football, I guess, faces.
Yeah.
And a really strong president, really knowledgeable dude just about everything. But I really appreciate the way he goes about covering college football. So excited to catch up with Josh Pate tomorrow. Just going to talk to him about everything from expansion and really dive into this upcoming season, break down Georgia with him, take a look at Georgia Southern with him. And I'm really excited because we're getting towards that time of the year, right? Just 58 days until the first full Saturday of college football. So we're getting to the time of the year where we start talking to the Josh Pates, where we start catching up with the Phil Stills, who writes like the holy Bible of college football previews every single year. Like, it's not officially college football season until you get that first Phil Steele, right?
True.
I'm pretty sure we still have 2021 like sitting right back here. It's just
we probably have a lot of
it just makes the room feel better. But
especially when you get like yours, like your teams specifically, it's beautiful.
So we'll catch up with Josh Pate coming up tomorrow. But in terms of the executive decision I've made for the rest of the week, unless something happens, there will be no more prognosticating, no more brain spewing about potentially the future of college football.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, we are 58 days away from the first full Saturday. And this might be like bordering on too close to what I just said we're not going to talk about, but I do feel like the closer we get to actual kickoff, the less we're going to hear about this. Right? Because think about 5 years ago, right? This is just the doldrums of the sports calendar, right? You got Wimbledon. If this was a normal rotation, you'd have the World Cup right now, which would be exciting, right? Something to kind of hold you over until football gets here. This year, still have a World Cup, but because they decided to play it in Qatar, one of the hottest places on earth, they're playing it in November instead of the middle of the summer. So it's just like 5 years ago, we'd just be in the doldrums of college sports. Right? Like, like if you're interested in college baseball, that just ended. If you're interested in college softball, that just ended. Now it's just Major League Baseball and just free agency, getting ready for OTAs in the NFL.
Yeah, or really NBA free agency.
No, that's what I meant when I said free agency. Yeah,
gotcha.
But now it's, holy crap, what about the future of our sport? What's going to happen? But I just feel like the closer we get to it, the more we're actually going to start talking about what we could see play out in 2022. Because I think right now the only thing I've heard most people talk about is, okay, it's Alabama, Ohio State, and everybody else who can slide in there. There really hasn't. We don't know a lot, and there's so many fun storylines, right? All the new faces that we have in different spots at really prominent programs around the country. Lincoln Riley at USC, Brian Kelly at LSU, Marcus Washington. Excuse me. No, Freeman. Yeah, I don't know who I'm thinking about. Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, right? We have so many exciting faces at all these new programs, and I think Brian Kelly, could he bring LSU back to sustained success?
That's a tough one.
Sustained success.
I would have had to slow myself down a lot more than that.
Success,
honestly. So
I'm at impressed. LSU, right?
Yeah.
That Les Miles had.
Yeah.
I have an interesting fact about LSU coming up here in a little bit, but we have so many cool storylines. I'm going to be at SEC Media Days coming up in a couple of weeks from the College Football Hall of Fame, which I will carry. If you think I'm backing down from my takes on the College Football Hall of Fame, y'all don't know me.
No, that's insane. The closer you get to it, the louder you should get.
I'm going to be broadcasting from the Hive Mind, and I'm going to be in there. And
good.
Yeah, I'm going to be trying to change things.
I appreciate that. There's so many people that get up there and they get around, the people they're the systems they're complaining about. And then they're like, oh, it's just, I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so much.
No, I'll go full Sturgill Simpson at the CMAs and broadcast from outside that bad boy.
Let's go.
I ain't got a problem. But
looking forward to it.
So
reports from the inside.
Correct. Pretty soon we're gonna hear who the players are that the coaches are bringing to SEC Media Days, and then once we find that out, we'll do one of our favorite traditions. Is we'll give you probably sometime in the next week the walk-up music for every coach at SEC Media Days. The one that still hurt. The one that still stings more deeply than any other one, you'll hear why I stopped myself in a second, is Jim Johnson, former producer of 3 and Out. This was his idea originally. We've carried it on since he's moved on. The year after Georgia lost to Alabama in the national championship, his walkout song for Kirby Smart was "What Hurts the Most."
That's gold.
Was being so close.
It's still one of the best.
I remember like audibly cursing
when hearing it. Yeah.
But it's like because it was so good.
It's so true.
But also it hurt the most. Like it hurt so bad.
Jim would do those things too.
Oh my God.
Like you can't, like, you want to be mad at him.
Jim would side with Vecna, I guess is the best way.
I get. I haven't seen it. So but no, he would make these things and create these things that would infuriate you to your core, but you would know that it's the truest thing you've ever seen. So, like, how mad can you really be at it? You're just kind of mad that he thought of it, right? You're mad that he was able to put 2 and 2 together. But man, he did those things all the time. So, that's gold. I can't wait to hear what Jimbo's is, to be honest with you. If it's going to be something themed about, of course, the rivalry and anger towards Nick Saban, which apparently is just all good now.
Everybody's fine.
Yeah, whatever. We'll see him on the field. Or if it's more about, not meeting expectations, or maybe finally meeting expectations or something like that.
Them 8-4 expectations, I guess.
Looking forward to that.
But no, so many awesome storylines in college football coming up this year, and I'm excited. We're going to talk to Josh Pate about this tomorrow, but I'm excited because there are so many cool games to start the season, right? Everyone's looking at the Georgia and Oregon games, right? But I mean, LSU plays Florida State to start the year in the Superdome.
Yeah.
Like, that's an awesome game. Alabama plays Texas at Texas week 2.
Right.
That's an outstanding game.
Yeah, I know when we keep going back to, but it's like Florida and Utah. Florida State, Utah's playing Florida in the swamp.
Yeah, Florida fans, y'all better be ready.
That's awesome.
And I think Florida fans, for the most part, are complaining because it's a night game. They're like, no.
Yeah.
We need this sucker at noon or 3 o'clock so we can just watch them Utes melt.
Right. Like, remember back at this is the thing. Sometimes with these opening like few weeks of college football, you get 4 or 5 really, really good matchups that are non-conference.
Sure.
Even this year, there's some in-conference matchups that are pretty good. Should they be happening week 1? That's a whole different argument. But anyway, like
Clemson, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, for sure. So like you have a lot of these. Normal years, there's maybe like 3 or 4, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And then other years there tries to be 3 and 4, and it's the media trying to get you hyped up for Alabama Duke.
Are you as a member of the media?
That's not going to happen.
Are you as a member of the media taking a shot at the media?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I despise most media.
Okay.
So like, yeah.
PJ hitting you with the hashtag fake news.
Listen, man, I've always said this. It's just like your take on the College Football Hall of Fame, right?
Okay.
It's like you want to get inside there, right, in the hive mind, and see what things you can change from up there, right? I've always not really liked the media that much, but if you're gonna change something and do it right, what better way than to become part of that?
I want to do an entire show about how you have changed media, but
I mean, obviously it's not big scale, whatever, dude. Like, come on, but
damn it, South Georgia sports talk.
It's like politics, man. Like everyone.
Where's this conversation going?
I don't know. You got me in a mood.
I know you came in a mood.
Yeah, no, not really. I don't know what kind of mood that was. You
walked into the studio. Hey, man.
I don't know. I was just like,
anyway.
Okay.
Quickly, you talked about Georgia Tech, Clemson to start the year. So that's an awesome game.
No, you mentioned that. That's not the one I was thinking.
Oh,
of.
Which one were you thinking of?
I mean,
there's game to start the year.
Yeah. Purdue, Penn State.
I mean, come on.
It's ridiculous.
Boilermakers, Nittany Lions.
Yeah.
But no, Clemson.
No, there's plenty of
Clemson,
there's
Georgia
a few
Tech
of them,
at
though.
a neutral site in Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah.
Which I was like, that's so weird to me because like Georgia Tech's played there for season openers before. It makes sense. An Atlanta school playing in Atlanta to start the season. Played Tennessee in the not too distant past in a awesome game while Paul Johnson was still there. I think it was like 49-42 or something like that. But I was like, why the hell is Georgia Tech doing that? Then Holly Anderson from Channel 6 and Shutdown Fullcast, I heard her talking about it, and she was like, no, it's actually a brilliant move because it's better to just have Mercedes-Benz and Chick-fil-A buy out one of your home games, pay you a bunch of money, and then watch 80% of the stadium be Clemson fans versus hosting a home game and watching 80% of your stadium be Clemson fans to start the year.
Yeah.
Like if it's like week 11 and you're playing Clemson and they pack out your stadium, whatever, you already have 7 losses. Who cares at that point? But like the start of the year is supposed to be bright and hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
But at least the first home game is supposed to be full.
Right.
Right. And then you walk in there and it's just, did we make a wrong turn? Are we in Clemson?
Yeah, right. Is this North? What's going on here? Yeah.
But yeah, exciting start to the college football season. We have some college football to dive into. We did it last week for the SEC East. We're going to do it today for the SEC West. Talk about what the most important game on the schedule is for each team in the SEC West. We'll dive into that. But quickly here, the Braves have won 3 in a row against the Cardinals, going for the sweep tonight. They win last night 3-0. Eddie Rosario gets back, smashes a home run. Marcell Ozuna absolutely launched a missile, I think like 445 feet last night. Get another really good performance out of your pitching staff there. But the damn Cincinnati Reds choked.
I don't know, man.
Choked. No, they choked. It was the Braves currently trail the Mets by 2.5 games.
They fritzed it?
Yeah, they fritzed. Last night, Braves win 3-0 against the Cards. Checking the ESPN app. I actually flipped over and watched it on Bally's. And it's probably my fault. I probably jinxed it. The Reds were up 3-2 on the Mets going into the 9th. Give up a run in the 9th to tie it up at 3-3. Can't do anything in the bottom of the 9th. And then go into extras, and the Mets put up a 5 spot in extras to win 8-3.
Yeah.
Reds can't get it done last night. So it's lead still 2.5, but it's setting you up for that awesome series coming up here next week where you'll have the Mets at Truist.
Yeah. Certainly looking forward to that. I don't know, man. I feel like with the Reds, like they did most of what you could ask of them. Like, I mean, they at least got one.
Yeah.
So like with how their season's going, that's good enough. And once that goes into extra innings, like the Reds aren't good enough to beat a team in extra innings. It's just not possible. So like, they have to get it done.
How petty do you feel you are as a sports fan?
It depends on what sport and what team.
College football, let's say, because that's your favorite, right?
Pretty petty, not amazingly. But
are you petty enough? I'm curious because I know there's other sports fans out there who do this, but it's one of my pleasures in life that's I shouldn't like it as much as I do.
Okay, all right.
If I'm just being honest, and
I like where this is going.
Yeah, this is a very, I feel like, honest space. One of my favorite things to do is go and read articles from the city that the other team is based in when they lose to my team.
All right, I'm not as petty as you.
It feels so good.
Yeah.
Best example of this is Bill Plaschke and all the dudes in Los Angeles were talking so much bleep.
Yeah.
During this past postseason for the Braves, saying like, hey, this one will come back to Los Angeles. We'll be done in 4. And just consistently talking smack throughout the entire thing. Then the Braves come back and all of a sudden it got real quiet. Bill Plaschke took a little vacation. little vacay out there. But I love going and reading the articles after. If it's like a team you're supposed to beat, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? You're not doing that. But if it's a team who like people are picking against you or their media's talking smack leading up to it, I love reading the recaps after my team wins.
I get that. See,
it's so good.
And that's also something that I wouldn't think of based on the teams. You got to think of the teams that my team hates or my teams hate that would lose those games. And it's like Baltimore, Cleveland.
Best example for you would be like Penn State upsets Ohio State. If you really want to revel in it, go read Ohio State.
Yeah, but it's like Columbus, right? So like my mind doesn't really go there. It makes a little more sense when you say something like that because it's like you just brought up. Like LA, Bill Plaschke is a prominent figure in the media.
Like during the Knicks Hawks series from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Where like Julius Randle had a great season,
yeah.
right? And the mayor of New York's coming out and he's wearing like a Nets hat one week, and then the next press conference it's a Knicks hat.
Yeah, no.
Like
just ridiculous.
Get out of here.
So dumb.
Right, get out of here. And they're talking smack. They're like the worst sports town in America, Atlanta. Well, the worst sports town in America just sent Ice Tray up there and went boop, dunked on you. So point being, I am so looking forward to, because it's going to happen. I am so looking forward to reading the articles from New York sports writers and listening to all the radio clips that get played the day after the Braves take the division lead.
Yeah, it's going to be,
because what's it going to be? I'm sure everybody's seen the clip from Barstool Sports where the guy's like, the Braves don't lose. Just like it's full meltdown mode for the Mets, right? I'm curious to see if it's going to be, do they blame themselves? Do they do the PJ where they blame the Braves schedule?
I mean, I don't know.
Is it a meltdown? Is it like again, this would be the biggest division meltdown ever.
I have one side point where like I ask a question and bring up a point, and for like eternity, it's PJ hates the Braves.
You do,
because they played a weak schedule
for like 2 weeks. PJ,
my God.
Well,
anyway,
now look, they're about to sweep out the Cardinals here, who are one of the better teams in baseball.
Yeah, it's an okay team. No, I'm just kidding. But in all reality, what the funniest thing is going to be like is they're probably going to blame themselves and just want to,
Well, that's the point. National like ESPN, and I love those guys, but national ESPN. Do you think the conversation would be like, wow, this Braves pitching staff is really good? They have a bunch of guys with sub-3 ERAs, and Austin Riley should be an MVP candidate. Ronald Acuna is finally healthy. Matt Olson is on pace to like break records in terms of extra base hits for a National League hitter, right? They can talk about any of that, or they can talk about the Mets.
Well, it's going to be why the Mets should blow it up.
Like who the Mets can go after the trade deadline.
Who are they trading away because this just isn't working? Like it's going to be all those things. And do the Mets go in a full complete rebuild mode and fire all their people? Like, no, that's exactly what it's going to be. And that's the hilarious part of all this, right? Is that's what happens when you get so hyped up. You get a big lead. And like the first 2 months of the season.
No, but you got to put it in context. It's not a big lead. It's the biggest division lead ever at the beginning of June.
At the beginning of the year. Yeah, sure. But that also like
10.5 games.
When you get it the biggest and the fastest it's ever been, that's fine in football. Like that's fine.
PJ
even
said
maybe
you got to play all 162,
that's
baby.
Fine maybe in the NBA where there's literally half as many games. But like, dude, if you had this lead in August and you blew it, that's a different story, right? If you had this lead in September and somehow you blew it, that's a different story. But like you had this lead in April and May. So I know I'm asking New York fans not to overreact. Of course, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever said ever.
Correct.
But like they're going to, and it's going to be fantastic when it does happen. Like it's going to be hilarious. And the best part is, I don't know out of any of us here, like, yes, we were all like trying to figure out what was wrong with the Braves. Like, how do you manage this? How do you fix this? Where do you go? But we all also agreed that the Mets were going to collapse at some point, which is hilarious because like you could just count on it and guess what's happening.
So here's where I think this series is going to get really fun because again, the Braves have 4 more games before they welcome in the Mets on Monday. The Braves have 1 more today, 7:20 against the Cardinals, and then they have a 3-game set at home against the Nationals, who are 30-54 on the year. Bad team. Meanwhile, the Mets are playing the Marlins, who aren't bad.
Yeah.
Maybe have the best pitcher in baseball in Sandy Alcantara. Right? Like they are a pretty damn good baseball team. Braves playing a really bad baseball team. I'm just hoping this thing's down to like 1.5 or a half game by the time we get there. Because even so, like say it's just kind of how it would, I don't know, kind of just be a letdown is say you were up 2.5, or excuse me, the Braves are down 2.5, and you play the Mets for a 3-game set. Unless you sweep them, you're not taking the division lead.
Right.
Like the most you could pick up with a series win going 2-1 would be one game,
right.
which kind of be anticlimactic, right?
Sure.
So I'm thinking you're hoping you win 3 out of the next 4. Mets maybe lose a couple to the Marlins.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
coming to that one a game and a half out. Are
That'd
you
be
with
big.
me, PJ?
That'd be big.
You with me? All right, good. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk some college football, SEC West talk next, right here on ESPN Radio. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko. Glad to have y'all hanging out with us here on this Thursday afternoon. Okay, so we talked about this last week for the SEC East. We'll do it today for the SEC West. What's the most important game on each team's schedule? And I think there's an important scope we have to put around this. Like, what do you mean most important game? Isn't every game the most important? You have to go undefeated if you want to win the national championship. Not everybody's going to win the national championship.
Right.
And so when I say most important, I mean, for fans, got to look at realistic expectations and what gives the fan and the coaching staff and the program the best chance and sets them up the best for hitting their goals, right? Leaves you with okay, that was an okay season at the end, kind of taste in your mouth. Or, because for Alabama, that was an okay season, is winning the SEC East and losing in the college football playoff.
Right.
Or winning the SEC, and losing in the college football playoff. Okay season for Mississippi State is 8-4, but winning the Egg Bowl. Right? So it's there's different realms, right?
Yeah.
So what we did last week, and we're going to do it the same way this time, is we're going to go from the bottom to the top of how the standings finished last year. And so starting at the bottom, hilariously, LSU. New head coach in Brian Kelly. Don't know who the quarterback's going to be yet, but I think they're should be okay at that quarterback position. Still have a lot of 5-stars on the team. They've had some guys transfer out, but they've gotten a bunch of guys to transfer in. Some prominent Oklahoma State players now in Baton Rouge. So it should be a good team.
Yeah.
Right. But I think first year under Brian Kelly, you just want to see progress, right? You're not going to be the LSU of the 2010s, right? Where you're blow for blow with Alabama, going back and forth. What you want to see is you're competitive in every game and you're not getting smoked by Mississippi State at home.
Right.
Right. So I have Auburn, October 1st for LSU as their most important game. Now, the reasoning behind that, prior to that, you're playing Florida State in New Orleans. So Superdome, that's a home game, right?
Yeah.
After that, you're playing Southern at home game. Mississippi State is going to be a tough game, home game. New Mexico, home game. So Brian Kelly, I don't think you could really write it any better, starts with 4 straight games inside the state of Louisiana.
Right.
Right? After that is the wake-up call. Then you head to Auburn. And I know Auburn's not a great team, but Jordan-Hare for LSU is going to be a madhouse.
Yeah.
So this is where it goes from Brian Kelly road tour with Notre Dame going to different stadiums to, no, dog, this is just another regular season game. Like, you do this 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it's going to be like for every single game you play. I think how Brian Kelly's team responds to playing in that kind of atmosphere with 90,000 plus screaming at you against a bad team, I'll say, in Auburn, but still that atmosphere is going to be there.
Yeah.
How Brian Kelly's team responds, I think, is going to tell you a lot about how the rest of the season is going to go and kind of how Brian Kelly, because the whole point has been for the long time, Notre Dame's really good when they're playing crappy teams, and they come and they play an SEC team or a Big Ten team, and they just get smoked.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true.
How do you perform in Jordan-Hare against an SEC West opponent?
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that a lot, especially with the lead up of it being all pretty much home games to begin that, or games
New Orleans
inside
is a home game for LSU.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. Games inside Louisiana at the very least. I'm not gonna lie, I almost said Tennessee just because of how much respect I have for Tennessee this year. But I'll say actually I think it's Florida. Because basically for a lot of the same points that you're talking about, but I think Florida is the first team that they play away from home that can beat them. Like that is right on par.
Yeah, I don't think LSU's as good as you think they are.
See, I don't know. I think it's all about how those transfers mesh together. But yeah, I'd say that Florida game also, like, it's always a big rivalry. I mean, like, I know it's not, I don't think one of the named rivalries in the SEC, but it's one that whenever they face off, it's always a huge game. Most of the time, it's going to be 3:30 CBS.
"Quote unquote" a rivalry because it's the crossover that the SEC forced on them.
Yeah, so, right. So, but
you play them every year. It's a cool uniform game.
Yeah. So to me, it's always crazy too. It always has some sort of crazy finish. Gainesville gets insane all the time. So I'd say Florida's that first one I'm really circling on the schedule for LSU.
All right, going up in the standings here, Auburn. We just talked about them a little bit. I have their biggest game coming in week 3. I think you're very familiar with the team they're playing.
Yeah.
Penn State.
I think so.
So heading up to it, you're playing Mercer and San Jose State. Not going to learn anything from those games. Right? Last year, you went up to Happy Valley and you took Penn State to the edge. And it was an awesome game. Was it a whiteout? Did they white it out for that one?
I believe so.
Yeah. Played in the whiteout, right? Awesome game down to the end, and Penn State keeps you out of the end zone. End up losing, but still, it was okay. That's respectable going up there. I think now you have to flip it around. You have to do the same thing. Penn State, not a very good team.
Apparently, they're like in all the polls, they're like top 15. I'm like, why?
Yeah,
stop it.
I look at them and I see, yeah, there's some talent, but like line of scrimmage, quarterback play, not a great team. I think for your like really your Power 5 home opener,
yeah,
to kind of set up for the rest of the season, I think you got to win that one if you're Brian Harsin, because look at the schedule after that.
Mm-hmm.
You have Missouri at home, which Missouri isn't going to be great, but after that, LSU, Georgia, Ole Miss, bye week, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, then you get Western Kentucky before you play Alabama.
Yeah.
You don't beat Penn State, there's a legitimate chance you're a 3-win football team.
Right. It's sad, but it's true.
Yeah. So Penn State, massive game coming in for Auburn. I think a team that's close enough to you in talent that being at home, you should be able to win that football game.
I'm happy because like I thought I was gonna get a side eye for saying that, but no, like really, like you said with Auburn, just kind of with the type of talent they have right now and everything like that. If you lose that game, and if you lose that game by like 10 or 14 points, you might lose your football team. True, like I don't know,
fan base, everything. Yeah. Next one up, A&M, which again hilarious because how everybody's talking about them. They finished third from the bottom, or second from the bottom, I should say. In the standings last year. I have it as Arkansas. I know everybody and their mom is circling Alabama, Texas A&M. Alabama is absolutely going to boat race Texas A&M. Like, this game's not going to be close. I understand all the hype leading up to it this year with Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher sparring back and forth. That was so much more competitive than what we're going to see at the football field. Number one, it's at Bryant-Denny, right?
Yeah.
A&M has to travel to Alabama, to Tuscaloosa, to take on Nick Saban after beating him. PJ, only twice since Nick Saban has been at Alabama have they lost to the same team in back-to-back years.
Right.
The most recent was Ole Miss in, I believe, 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
Right? So you had Ole Miss winning at Ole Miss, and then you had the crazy Chad Kelly game, tip ball touchdowns against Alabama and Tuscaloosa the year after that. Before that, the only time it had happened was 2010, 2011 against LSU. And then in 2011, Alabama got to rematch LSU at the end of the year and beat them in the national championship.
Right.
So it doesn't happen a lot that you beat Nick Saban in Alabama twice. In fact, it's happened twice. Right?
Sure.
A&M's going to get smoked. So, and it's fair. They're young. Yeah, you just signed the number 1 recruiting class, but they're all freshmen.
Yeah.
Right? You're young. That's okay. I think more so than focusing on trying to beat Alabama, which I get. You're going to say you want to beat anybody you play. It ain't going to happen. I think you play Sam Houston State, App State. App State's a damn good football team.
Yeah.
Then you play Miami, which we don't know how good they are, but it's a big name. And first-year coach down there, Mario Cristobal, should be a fun game at Kyle Field, right?
Yeah.
Then after that, you go to a team that just beat you 20-10 last year in Arkansas, right? A team that, you had beaten a bunch in a row prior to that, but a lot of those games have been one-score games, and Sam Pittman's come in and kind of flipped the identity of that program. I think Arkansas right now might be the second best team in the West, and for A&M, you got to crawl before you can walk.
Yeah.
So focus on beating Arkansas
right
before you go and just, we're taking on Alabama.
Yep.
No, you're not.
Yep.
You're going to get beat by 30, and that's okay.
Yeah,
because that's what happens to
Alabama. That's actually like the one I circled is actually Miami.
And you circle it because it's a fun game.
No, it is a fun game for sure. But I also think it's one of those games that you talk about Texas A&M, looking forward to Alabama and having that circled and whatever. And then you have, Arkansas is our first, away SEC game. Like they're going to get up, they're going to be ready for that. How many of the fan base, the players, whatever, are looking at Miami and being like, yeah, we know they have a new coach, but look at what Alabama did to them last year, blah, 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 and not taking them seriously, looking forward to some other games maybe, and then boom, they beat you in College Station, and what the hell just happened to our season. Like, I really think that could be one that sneaks up on
I
them.
think A&M's good enough to handle Miami, especially since it's in College Station. As you said, I think they're good enough to
trust them, man.
I think they're good enough to physically handle them. But also, if you lose that game, it's a non-con. Like all of your goals are still there.
Sure.
You lose to Arkansas, all of a sudden your back's against the wall.
Yeah, but we'll see.
All right, I think we got time for one more.
Yeah.
Before we go to break here, Mississippi State. This one's pretty simple for me. It's Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Last game of the season, Egg Bowl,
yeah.
November 24th. For a very simple reason, it's the damn Egg Bowl, right? Mississippi State. You can be 8-3 going into that game. You can be 3-8 going into that game.
Mm-hmm.
You win the Egg Bowl, your offseason's good.
That's one of the only rivalries and teams that I think everyone's like, we could be 0-11 and we'd be happy winning the whatever bowl. And like, I don't believe that. I believe that with Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Or mainly Mississippi State. But like, I 100% believe that with those teams in the Egg Bowl.
So if you don't believe in the power of the Egg Bowl, think back to Matt Luke's last game as Ole Miss's head coach and how that changed the trajectory of college football. Just look at the spider webs from that game.
Yeah.
Players pretending like a dog peeing on the ball.
I was going to say,
get the flag, miss an extra point. All of a sudden, Matt Luke's no longer the head coach at Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's the new head coach at Ole Miss. Matt Luke goes to Georgia as the offensive line coach. Georgia wins the national championship. There's just Mike Leach heads to Mississippi State. There is just so much that happened from that game.
Mark his territory well enough, so he ended up getting fired.
Or too well, arguably.
I don't know.
Or too well. We got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll give you the remaining 3 teams. What's the number 1 game on their schedule? Which one are you circling? When we come back, this is Second Down on ESPN Radio. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Continue our conversation from last segment there. What's the most important game on each SEC West team's schedule? We got through LSU, Auburn, A&M, and Mississippi State, which brings us to Woo Pig Suey.
Oh, hey.
Arkansas. The Razorbacks finished third in the SEC West last year. I am going to say this, and I'm going to say it confidently because I'm riding with my Razorbacks.
Okay.
Their most important game on the schedule, I think they've reached the level, is Alabama on October 1st.
How about that?
For a big reason, you're hosting them.
Yeah.
So it's one of those ones where it's Kirby Smart said it after the Clemson game last year. You're either elite or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You got the hype. You got a big quarterback returning for you, KJ Jefferson, who's a really good football player. Everyone's kind of riding the Sam Pittman train right now. Like, this is a pretty dang good football team. Beat some teams last year you weren't supposed to beat. Lost a couple of tight ones. Got smoked by Alabama and Georgia like most teams would, right? But you were able to hang with Alabama for a couple of quarters, right? Traylon Burks caught some long touchdown passes. Now you're playing Alabama at home. This is going to be the buildup that everyone is looking forward to. Prior to that, I think there's a chance you're undefeated going into that game, but you have a tough schedule. Cincinnati, South Carolina, Missouri State, all at home. Then you play Texas A&M and Arlington. If you could get Texas A&M again, which I think they're probably the better team going into that game, you're undefeated going into hosting Alabama at home on October 1st. I think even if you lose that game, how you perform in that game is what's important, right?
Sure.
Because if you've really arrived and you're ready to go toe-to-toe, if you lose by 14, fine. It's a really damn good Alabama team.
Yeah.
But if it's just same old, hey, we're undefeated, and then you get blown off the field 42-10, okay. Their excitement's kind of gone.
Right. No, absolutely. And there's tons of teams as well that you look at on the schedule, and if they're not at home, you pretty much chalk it up as a loss. And that's for basically all the NCAA or all college football, right? So, like, Alabama is one of those teams. If you're playing them in Bryant-Denny, most likely it's going to be a loss. If you got them at home, you have a chance. So as long as Arkansas, I'll even say like one loss. Yeah. Even if they get through those first 4 games with one loss, I think you still have a chance.
Yeah, still a massive game.
To be able to knock off Alabama.
And so then the thing that's helping you out if you're Arkansas is the game after you for Bama is Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And that's one I know those players are ready to play just because of you got to support your coach, right? Moving on, team that finished second in the West last year, Ole Miss. I have their biggest game, not as the Egg Bowl, not as Alabama. I have it down as LSU at LSU.
All right.
Again, I think that's one of those statement games where you're trying to change the hierarchy of the SEC West. Now, Ole Miss takes on LSU pretty late into the season, October 22nd, but it's in Baton Rouge. LSU has not lost to Ole Miss in Baton Rouge since 2008.
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
And so Ole Miss going for a couple wins in a row against LSU. I have that as the biggest game on the schedule for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. And then finally here, PJ, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Alabama, you can point to a lot of games. Iron Bowl is always a great one, right? Last year, Auburn was terrible. Game still went to a lot of different overtimes, right? 2-point conversion off. You could point to LSU, Brian Kelly, Nick Saban, right? I have it down as the third Saturday in October. Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest game on Alabama's schedule.
In Knoxville.
Correct. That's going to be a hostile environment, and I think it's I don't want to say gimmick offense because that's not fair to what Josh Heupel does. It's an explosive and different enough offense with an athletic quarterback, which that's always been known to give Nick Saban defenses trouble. I will say, including Stetson Bennett. That team, I think, is good enough to go blow for blow with Alabama. They did it last year for 2.5, 3 quarters.
Completely agree.
Now it's in Neyland, and Tennessee is, let's see, their schedule. Yeah, this is pre-Georgia. Tennessee should probably be undefeated going into that football game.
Right.
Neyland's going to be rocking.
Yeah.
They're renovating it right now. Just put up the new Vols letters on top. We got a new Jumbotron in there. That stadium's going to be rocking. I think that's the biggest game on Alabama's schedule. A relatively light schedule for Alabama that year, but Tennessee, that game is going to be massive. And if Alabama has all the aspirations they have, which is undefeated national championship, I think that might be the biggest opportunity for them to get knocked off. But also at the same time, you want to keep burying teams Alabama's beat Tennessee 15 years in a row.
Yeah.
Josh Heupel, this is a really good team. You got a good quarterback. You got a bunch of guys back. 15 out of 22 returning starters for Tennessee coming in 2022. If Alabama goes in there and buries them, kind of like with Arkansas, it's just, hey, you guys are good. You ain't even breathing the same air we are.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you there, and I agree with the upset potential for sure. I mean, we both have talked about Tennessee ad nauseum, and that's just going to get worse the closer we get to the season, by the way. I would say that, like, this is kind of crazy to think this, but I don't think that's Alabama's biggest game, but I still think they could lose it.
Okay.
Even if Alabama goes in, gets upset by Tennessee, you got to win out the rest of the year. I still think you make it in the college football playoff, right? But to be able to do that, and this might, I'm sure we're going to talk about this a lot more too in the coming months. I think it's LSU. I think it's LSU still, because not only do I kind of respect what they have, I think they're going to be pretty good this year, but also that's a SEC West game, and
it's an away game.
You don't want to be stuck in that. I mean, really, like, you can still have that one loss to Tennessee, obviously, and still win the West. But to be able to do that, you got to get past LSU. It's in Baton Rouge, all that good stuff. So,
well, here's what turned me off about LSU in doing this. So, Bama goes through a stretch where they start the season Utah State, and then they go to Texas, and they come back home and play UL Monroe. Which, I mean, hey, if you're Bama,
watch out,
be careful.
Come on now.
But that being said, then you go Vanderbilt. After that, there is a interesting 4-game stretch here. Arkansas, A&M, Tennessee, Mississippi State. Arkansas, your number one contender in the West, in my opinion. A&M, you're out for blood in that game. You're trying to wipe that program off the face of the earth. After that, you have to head to Knoxville to take on Tennessee, who's going to be a really good football team. That's a tough stretch. And then after that, you're playing Mike Leach's Mississippi State,
right?
Which has an offense that'll tick you off too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What kind of turned me off about LSU is if they been in that bunch, sure, Bama has a bye week.
Yeah, right before
LSU.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get rested up. They're going to hand Brian Kelly a butt whooping. So that's an interesting pick.
Makes
for
sense.
Sure. We got to take a quick break. We'll come back, get you ready for 3 and Out next right here on ESPN Radio. Second Down on ESPN Radio. If you missed any portion of our show today, you can check it out wherever you get your podcast. PJ Braves sending Spencer Strider out to the bump tonight. I don't care how often it happens. Seeing a dude throw 102 is never going to get old.
Yeah, no. Sorry. I didn't want to steal your thunder.
No, it doesn't.
But absolutely. We could see that till the end of the time.
Putting you on the spot here.
What's up?
And I'm going to have you make some people mad or potentially not.
Probably.
Spencer Strider gets sent back to the 1920s.
Yeah.
And is pitching against Babe Ruth. You think Babe Ruth even touches his stuff?
No, probably not. Yeah, no, he's actually probably going for a perfect game.
I probably agree with you. There's other people who are like, no, Babe would take him deep.
Don't you dare.
Spencer Strider sitting him down. 3 Downs coming up next. Ben Troop and Kevin Thomas will catch up with everyone tomorrow.
Not even walking them.